Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us this evening at this Your Overseas Home webinar, which today will be focused on starting your journey to buy a home in Greece. My name's Hannah and I'm one of the team here at Your Overseas Home, and you may have also come across our sister business, Property Guides. Now, as a group of companies as a whole, we have been assisting buyers with their overseas property purchases for over 10 years now. We do this by offering lots of useful resources, connecting you with industry experts, helping you to understand the process and avoid the pitfalls, save you money, and crucially make this really exciting step in your life as fun and enjoyable as possible. We're really excited to have you all with us today to help you on that buying journey too. And to share their expert insight and advice, I am joined by three experts on the buying in Greece process. First up, we will hear from Paul Harris from Smart Currency Exchange. Next up, we're joined by Maria from the Euroland Crete Estate Agency. And joining us later, we will hear from Katia from Amaridis Law. For those of you who are listening in live today, if you do have any questions for the panelists, please do type them into the questions section, which you'll find on the right-hand side of your screen. And I'll do my best to get as many of those answered as possible for you. We've also got one quick question that we would like to ask our viewers today. If you head to the polls section, again, near where you type in your question and answer that would be wonderful. And it'll help us to slightly tailor and tweak today's session for you. So without further ado, I will start to take you through the buying journey. Now, one of the things that I'm sure you'll first think about is the budget and how much you're looking to spend on a property. So to share his expertise on the budgeting and currency transfer process, I'd like to welcome today Paul Harris of Smart Currency Exchange. Paul's worked in this industry for over 10 years now in a range of businesses, and he's really well placed to help you understand the best solution for transferring your money. So welcome today, Paul. Can I ask you to start by giving us a little bit of background into Smart Currency Exchange and how you as a business can help our viewers?
Sure, thanks Hannah, and good evening everyone. Smart Currency, we're a foreign currency specialist. So where we help you in the journey is actually we're the mechanism that's going to help you move your money from one country obviously to the other in Greece, and we can help you manage the risk associated with the currency markets, make the costs as low as possible, as obviously related to the currency markets there. We understand that everyone's requirements are completely different, so we really look to engage with you right from the early stages, understand everything about the actual transaction that you're looking to make, and help you as much as we possibly can. And then, like I said, ultimately when it comes to actually purchasing the property, time it as best we can to keep those costs as low as possible.
Thanks, Paul. That's a great intro for us. And you mentioned there about wanting to talk to the customers early on. What is the best point for customers to start thinking about currency transfer?
Well, like I said, the mechanism actually moving the money can often be one of the last things you do, and one of the last things you actually will action. But one thing that we would always say is it's important to speak to us right from the early stages. So you may have been looking online, you may have spoken to an agent, you may have actually been over to Greece to view a property. At that point, you're all obviously looking at a type of property, a certain number of bedrooms maybe, but there'll always be a price point there. So you'll always be looking at a price budget, a budget range for yourself. So that's where we can help you out straight away. So say, for example, you're based in the UK, all your money's in pounds sterling. You'll be looking at properties in euros. We can help you understand how much your pounds budget can go towards affording those properties in euros. So yeah, I mean, like I said, we can often be one of the last things you actually will action, but often one of the very first things you will actually be subconsciously thinking about. So we can help you right from the early stages.
That's great advice. Thank you, Paul. And I think that's important for everyone to remember, because sometimes you think of paying for things right at the end, but great to know that people should start thinking about that early. Thank you. Now, I know from working with Smart in the past that you've obviously got lots of different products and different ways that you can transfer for customers. Can you talk us through a bit of about the different solutions that you guys offer?
Absolutely, yeah. So we've got various different options available when it comes to transferring money, but there are four main products that we have for property buyers. And if you've done some research already, you may have come across spot or forward contracts. So a spot contract I'll talk about first is a really efficient and quick process and quick service that we offer. For example, you could come to us today and agree an exchange rate, send us the money straight away or within a couple of days, and we'll action that transfer straight away. get it straight over to Greece for you, wherever you've told us that you obviously want the funds to end up. So really quick, really efficient service, and it is quite popular. It's like I said, it does exactly what it says on the tin. You get your exchange rate, transfer the money to us, and we transfer it straight on for you. So great service that we can offer for you. Actually, our most popular product though with property buyers is the forward contract. So just to give you an example, if you were in Greece at the moment, you find a property that you fall in love with, sign on the dotted line, you're agreeing a price in euros. So that price in euros is going to stay fixed. That's not going to change at all. But what will be changing all the time is how much that's actually going to cost you from your, let's say again, use the example you're based in the UK. That price in pound sterling will be changing based on the currency market. So a forward contract takes away all the risk. So for example, if you sign on the dotted line, you've got your price in euros. Typically, we would estimate around about 3 months. It may be more, maybe slightly less, but it's a bit of a window there for that cost on your pound sterling side to change. So a forward contract basically allows you to have your price in euros, fix the price in pound sterling. So it will give you a fixed exchange rate, and you only pay a 10% deposit on that. And then at the 3-month period or whatever date period you've been given for completion, you pay the remaining balance. Now, the reason why that's so popular is because you've agreed your price in euros, which is fixed, but then you've also agreed your price in pound sterling, which is also fixed. It takes away all the risk of any potential market drops. So just to give you a live example, over the last week or two, we've seen some good rises, but we've had seen some sharp declines against the pound. So around 2 cents we've seen drop off. So if we booked a transfer for you last week and we'd seen the market drop, you're still fixed in at that higher rate. So you are benefiting from that better rate, and you're guaranteed full peace of mind and security that price won't change. 2 other options for you that we do offer are orders. So we have an order to buy and an order to call. So if you, again, same example, you've agreed your price in euros, but the exchange rate isn't quite where you want it to be at the moment. You're aiming a slightly better exchange rate. We can then target those rates for you. So we can put an order into the market where we say for example, you're looking at a rate back up the 2 cents that we dropped off this week. So you're looking at around the 117, maybe close to 118 mark. We can certainly target that for you, put a marker in for you, and an order to call would be that when that rate is hit, we'll call you, discuss that the exchange rate's there. Are you now ready to book? And if you are, great. We can fix in again either a spot or a forward contract for you, and then you've got that better exchange rate that wasn't quite available at the first time we'd spoken to you. An order to buy, slightly different. You send us the money up front. As soon as that rate is achieved, we'll get the money sent straight out for you, and you benefit from that better exchange rate. The most important thing, though, to make you aware of is that if we're using an order as an option, we cannot guarantee that we will get to that better exchange rate. We can certainly target it. We can never guarantee it. So we're still basing everything on the live exchange rate. So yeah, it comes with a little bit more risk because it's not a guarantee, but you can have the upside where we reach that rate, but there is the potential downside where you haven't fixed and we just don't get to that higher mark. So it could be that slightly lower from when we first started talking to you. But 4 very good, very popular options. The most popular is the forward contract, just because it takes all the risk away from you. But yeah, there are 4 main options.
Brilliant. Thank you, Paul. That's really helpful. And we've had lots of questions coming in from the customers. A common theme coming through from customers listening today is, how much do all of these options cost? What are your fees for these various different products that you just talked us through?
So we don't actually charge a fee for any of our transactions. We don't charge commission either. The only contract we have that has any type of fee is the forward contract, but it's not a fee. It's just a deposit. So it's just up to 10% of the total cost of the contract. So we're not charging you to have that service at all. The way we make our money is we basically buy our currency from the market price, or very close to the market price from our bank, which is the rate you would see online or wherever you're getting your exchange rates from. And then the rate we offer is always slightly below that. So we make the money between the two. It's exactly the same way that the banks will work as well. But when you do book a transfer, we'll always be completely transparent that that's the exchange rate you're getting. There'll be no hidden costs or fees associated to it at all.
That's brilliant. That's really helpful to know, and I hope that that's answered the customer's query. Another common theme that a few questions we've had come in on this is, Why would a customer use Smart when their bank can do these transfers for them? Can you give us any indication on that, Paul?
Yeah, sure. Sorry, I think my camera just went out there. So yeah, in comparison to the bank, obviously the high street banks is where the sort of natural place you may go to transfer your money. The main difference between ourselves and the banks is the service really that you would get. So you may walk into your high street bank and ask for an exchange rate. You may not be speaking to someone that has any experience with foreign exchange. They may just be typing in the figures onto the computer and being told what the exchange rate is at the time. So you won't get any guidance there of is it a good time to book the transfer? What are the options available to you? And if you're in the bank, you can only do a spot contract as well. So you don't have any flexibility. It's just, this is the rate you get. Do you want to do it or not, basically? And ultimately, for cost purposes, the exchange rate we can offer is much better than the banks. So it's the main thing that we offer is more service, give you real guidance, but we couple that up with a much better exchange rate. So it's a more cost-effective solution for you as well.
Perfect. Thanks, Paul. Well, it certainly sounds great, and I can certainly see why customers are using Smart. Thank you. Now, you mentioned when you were talking about the solutions that forward contracts are one of the most popular options for your clients. Obviously, that's beneficial for the clients. If there's any drop or change in the rate, they can secure the amount of euros that they're going to get. Does it work the other way? If the rate moves in their favour once they've secured a forward contract, can they benefit from the higher rate at a later date?
Short answer is no to that. If you've booked a contract in, we are fixed in at that exchange rate. There are options if you want to cancel it, but it doesn't always work out as cost effective if you were cancelling it and then rebooking at a higher exchange rate. I think the best way of really answering this is if you're comfortable at the time where you're booking a forward contract, you're comfortable that that meets your budget and it secures the property at the right price for you, is to not worry too much about what happens to the exchange rates afterwards. The markets at the moment are very volatile, so we could see some spikes, we could see some troughs, as we have seen over the last couple of weeks. But I'd say as soon as you're comfortable and you've booked that rate in, if the rates do go up, that could happen. But once you've booked that in, it just gives you that full peace of mind. So no, we can't benefit from the higher exchange rate for you because we physically bought all the currency ready to transfer for you at that future date. So we can't change the contracts as far as the exchange rates go.
Thank you. Thanks for clarifying, and I hope that answers the customer's query. Now, we've had a really interesting question in about how Smart safeguards customers' money when they've sent a lot of pounds to you. How do you safeguard their money to make sure there's no issues if Smart folded or there were any problems with Smart in the interim?
Really good question, and something that we take great pride in. Whenever you send money to us, the money is completely safeguarded in a client holding account. So that's with our bank, and it's completely safeguarded. If there was anything to happen to Smart as a business in the unlikely event, we've been operating for over 15 years now. So if it did happen, then the money would be completely returned to the bank account that had sent us the funds in the first place. We only take your funds in as soon as the transaction is completed. So the money ends up in the bank account in Greece. We will take the pounds that you sent to us for the transaction. So it's completely safeguarded for you until the transaction is complete. We're fully authorised by the FCA and governed by HMRC as well. And if you do want any extra information, my email address is up on the screen there. So paul.harris@smartcurrencyexchange.com. Feel free to drop me an email and I can forward all the documentation out of how we keep your funds safe and secure.
That's brilliant. Really good advice. Thank you so much, Paul. And I hope that's alleviated any fears that any of the customers have who are listening today. We've had another question in, which is a really interesting one about where you actually send the money. So do you send that into the Greek bank account of the customers? Can you send it to their lawyer to complete on the purchase on their behalf? Are there any sort of regulations or policies around where you actually send the money in the end?
No. There's no regulations as far as where we will send the money to. Obviously, as a regulated company, we do have to run checks on where we send the funds to, which will be done internally and through the banks. But when you book a transaction with us, if it's going to an account in your name, or a solicitor's account, or wherever it needs to go, you let us know where those funds need to go, and we will action that and send it to that bank account of your choosing. We have to do checks. It doesn't hold up the process at all. It's an incredibly quick process and incredibly quick check that we do whenever we transfer funds out. And once you've sent to an account once, we don't need to obviously do those checks again. So if it's a personal account of yours, we can do regular transfer. We won't need to do repeat checks on it. But yeah, we always will check it, but we can send it wherever you need it to go.
Brilliant. That's great. Thank you so much, Paul. And you mentioned there actually about regular payments, which brings me nicely onto the next question. Obviously, we've talked quite a lot through this presentation about kind of budgeting for a property purchase and a large scale transfer to actually complete on a property purchase. But what are the options if a customer wanted to, say, send money once a month out to Greece once they'd relocated? Are you able to do that as well?
Absolutely. Yeah. So we're fully aware that the buying journey doesn't end at the completion of buying the property. So maybe it's a holiday home, or you may be moving over to Greece and have some commitments in the UK, maybe a pension that you're looking to bring over. We can set up what's called a regular payment plan. So if you have, for example, just use the holiday home example. If you bought the holiday home and you have monthly bills or monthly costs on the property, you know how much that's going to cost each month. You can fix in an exchange rate again for up to 12 months, or sometimes up to 24 months, depending on what the transactions are. We can then do that as a standing order. So rather than needing to call us every month, it essentially works as a standing order. You know what exchange rate you're getting each month. You know how much it's going to cost you. You know how many euros are going to end up the other end. So it's a really popular product that we offer, and we can do it if you're moving to the UK and you want regular money going back. We can do it both ways as well. And if you've moved over to Greece and regularly moving pensions over, that's something we do very regularly also.
Brilliant. That's really helpful, Paul. Thank you so much. There's been a lot of questions in today, so we could chat on for ages, but I'm conscious of our time and I would like to bring in our other panelists. So thank you very much for everything that you've shared today. As Paul mentioned, his details are on screen, and we will also send these out via email after this session, so you can get in touch with him and his team directly. So thanks very much for all of your help there, Paul. And I will now move on to our second panelist. So you've thought about the budget, you've spoken to Paul and his team at Smart, and now you want to think about which property you want to buy. So we are joined today by Maria from the Euroland Crete Estate Agency. Now, Maria is an architect, born and raised in Crete, but has been working in real estate for the last 2 years. She loves to work directly with clients. She's a real people person, and she's excited to be able to help you find your perfect home. So welcome, Maria. Thank you so much for joining us today. Can I start by asking, similarly as I did with Paul, just to give us a little bit of background into you as a business and how you're able to help our customers? You just need to take yourself off mute, Maria. Yep, there you are. We can hear you now. Thank you.
All good. Hello, everyone. Thank you, Hannah. So a little bit of the background. We're based in Crete. We're a real estate agency, and we work with clients from abroad mainly, which makes us very familiar with the preferences of people that are trying to relocate to Crete or are looking for properties either as holiday homes or as properties to invest in. We know most of the criteria that they usually mention. We assist them through the entire process from beginning until completion, even throughout the sale, in collaboration with a lawyer. So we're there for any information from the beginning. We can even provide video viewings when people are not allowed to travel to visit Greece. This is a little bit about the background. We have noticed that in the last year, the real estate field in Greece has risen quite a lot. So I think we can say a lot of things today about any questions of the clients.
Thank you so much, Maria. That was a wonderful introduction, and it's really interesting to hear that the market has been rising. I think people perhaps expected that post-COVID there would be, opportunities to secure a bargain and to secure a deal, but it's really reassuring to know that there's such popularity in the market. So that's great. I know it's a difficult question to maybe answer, but could you start by giving us a bit of an indication if a customer had a budget of, say, 200,000 euros, what typically that would get them as a property?
Well, they would typically get a 2-bedroom property. This is definite, with no pool, not very close to the seafront. Mainly, we're talking about inland when we're talking about properties of a 200,000 budget. A quite new property they can find with this budget. But this question is a very good opportunity in order to clarify how easy it is for someone to be close to the sea, because most people have this preference, and clarify that it's extremely difficult to find a property within this budget and within walkable distance to the sea, as we hear a lot. The thing is that in Greece, the seafront plots, for instance, are usually non-buildable. This is a good thing for people to know in order to understand the background of the market. Many plots are blocked by the government if too close to the sea, for forestry reasons, and not only. That means that sometimes our expectations may be different than what we find out during our property search finally. So with a roughly estimate of a 200,000 budget, someone would either purchase an apartment, if we're talking about a city center, a good apartment, a new apartment, or if we're talking about detached properties, usually a 2 or 3 bedroom property with views. They could get the views as well. This is very approximate, you understand.
Of course.
But we cannot be very close to the sea with this budget and also include pools and fully landscaped gardens and all that. If we go a little bit higher, let's say 50,000 euro, we can have more features included. This is very approximate. I think we understand that. Yes.
Yes, thank you, Maria. That's very helpful. I mean, it's useful to just start, as a ballpark indication for our customers. Now, obviously, your specialism is in Crete, and we have customers listening who are interested in Crete, but also a few people thinking about other areas in Greece. Again, I know a difficult question to answer, but do you have any indication of how the prices are varying across the country, across the different islands?
Yes, of course. Some islands are the top choices, the most popular ones, the ones that are well known worldwide, like Santorini, Paros, Mykonos, Naxos, etc. Corfu, maybe. These islands are the most expensive ones, generally speaking. Crete, which is our expertise, is one of the islands that can combine many different options, because, for example, the southern part of the island is much cheaper than the northern. So there are also these differences in the different locations of Greece. Regarding the cities, our capital, Athens or Thessaloniki, if we're talking about apartments there, the prices are quite high. We could compare them to the prices of the famous islands. The range is the same. If we're talking about inland of Greece, the real estate is not growing there so much, so the prices are definitely lower. However, from our experience, we do not see interest in these areas. People want to be as close to the coast as possible, of course. And whenever we have a client who is either interested in the islands or another area, the other area is usually the Peloponnese, or Evia, some bigger islands close to the inland, but still not completely inland. So we can say that the most popular locations have similar prices to one another and are popular for a reason, obviously.
Thank you, Maria. That's very helpful. And And if you had a customer who maybe started looking in Crete, but decided that another area would be better for them, do you have other agents that you work with elsewhere? Can you make recommendations for people, or are they best to look themselves?
We can always make recommendations. If we have an initial contact with the client, we try to assist them through each next step, even if they're not interested in Crete, finally. To be honest, most of our partner agents are based abroad, so that we discuss about clients from abroad and suggesting properties in Crete, but we can definitely help them find something either in Athens or other islands. We are in touch. We're actually a wide network, and cooperation is always good. So yes, we can do that, definitely.
That's brilliant. That's really helpful to understand. Thank you so much. Now, obviously, the majority of the customers listening today are based in the UK. We do have some listeners from elsewhere, but the majority of our customers are British buyers. Do you have a recommendation of the best area, perhaps, for British buyers? You know, is there a strong expat community? Is there a place that a lot of Brits tend to end up? Any advice on that?
Look, from what we're seeing, we can say that the bigger islands are the most popular places for people to join an expat community. A very important factor is the international airports, obviously. The smaller islands have airports too, but maybe do not get the direct flights until late, until all year round. They usually stop in November or October. So a very important factor is the international airport. That makes us say that the British specifically are either focused their attention or on Rhodes, Crete, Corfu, and maybe Chalkidiki, we can say, close to Thessaloniki, the second biggest city in Greece. It's a coastal area below Thessaloniki, which is also very popular. But the expat communities are getting larger and larger, and even younger people are joining lately. Remote working has played a huge role, definitely. So we see various people.
Thank you. That's helpful, Maria. Thank you. And I know, you know, it's different preferences. Some people want to be part of an expat network. Some people want something completely different. So I guess that's the expertise that you and your colleagues can bring to help a customer understand the best area for them. Thank you.
Sure.
I'd love to understand a little bit about living costs in Crete in particular. What are the sort of typical utility bill costs on a maybe, you know, a 2-bedroom property that customers can expect on a monthly basis?
Okay, we can say that first of all, water bills are always cheaper than electricity. Water is usually a minor amount. It's something that someone can ignore. Water bills are usually every 2 months, and it's approximately 30 to 40 euro. I will be speaking about euro. I don't know, Paul will help us later. 30 to 40 euro every 2 months. Electricity, we could say 100 euro every 2 months for a property of this size. So including the internet, depending on what we choose, we could give the rough cost of 160 to 180 for all utilities.
Thank you. That's really useful, really helpful to understand. And is there any kind of, we obviously have council tax in this country that we're very used to paying. Is there any kind of council tax or residency tax or anything like that that customers have to pay?
No, not really. There's not something similar to the UK one. The ones that we have here are actually included in our utility bills. So it's not a separate amount, a separate fee. It's usually included in the electricity bills, and it's a small fee. It's just included, always.
Brilliant. Thank you. Thanks for clearing that up. I hope that answers the customer's questions. We've had an interesting question in from a customer about mortgages. We talk quite a lot about customers buying a property outright, but he wondered what the position would be for a British buyer to secure a mortgage. Is that something that can happen from a Greek bank?
Yes, it can. In Greece, it is not as easy for a bank to finance as it was 10 or 15 years ago. However, it is not impossible. Usually, the amount is approximately 40% that the bank can finance. The interest differs from bank to bank, but it's usually 3%. What else can we say? Some Greek banks find it more difficult to do that for non-EU citizens. So now we will have to take a look at that with the UK, but it's definitely not impossible. And usually the maximum amount they can finance for a property purchase is 40%, depending on the applicant. And what is important to know is that the bank examines every case individually, which means that we have to be discussing about a specific property with a specific price, a specific applicant, and then the bank will decide what they will offer. And actually, they do not accept the selling price of the property. They do evaluation of their own, and then they proceed.
Wonderful. That's really, really helpful advice, Maria. Thank you so much. And I hope that answers the viewer's question there. Now, I'd love to understand what the process is in Greece about negotiating on the price of a property. We have, certainly in England, we have a culture of trying to offer under the asking price and maybe get a deal. In Scotland, for our Scottish listeners, it's a little bit different, where you would typically offer over the asking price. What's kind of the process with negotiation in the Greek market?
That's interesting to know about Scotland. I didn't know that, to be honest. We do a lot of bargaining in Greece, and most of the clients that we meet from any country that they're coming do also that as well. So from our side as agents, we're trying our best to reach the best deal so that both the seller and the buyer are equally happy, if possible. Usually the interested buyer makes an offer. Sometimes, I will tell you the truth, it's much lower than the listed selling price. Other times it's just 5,000, let's say, lower than the price. But there's also the possibility to reach a deal close to that offer. It depends a lot on the owners. It depends a lot because most people in Greece do own a property. Most families have properties, so most people own something, either a plot or a small house. So it depends on the owner. Sometimes they're really flexible. It depends on the person. So we do our best in order to reach a deal. And of course, there is this procedure. It always takes place. Yes.
Great advice. Thank you so much, Maria. That's really helpful. I'm conscious of our time today. We could talk for days, I'm sure, about this interesting topic. But one last question I just wanted to help the viewers understand is, do they pay any fees, as a buyer? Do they pay you any fees? Or is it like the system that we're used to in this country where you make your money from the seller, essentially?
I understand. In Greece, how it works, the real estate system, is that both parties pay a commission to the agent. So it's both the seller and the buyer. So yes, the clients do pay an agent commission, which would you like to give an approximate percentage of how it usually goes? It's usually 2 to 3% on the selling price, on the agreed selling price.
That's really helpful, Maria. Thank you so much. Because I wasn't aware of that, and I think that would be really useful information to the viewers today. So thank you so much for that. As I say, we could talk all day, but I'm going to move on to Katia, our final speaker. So thank you so much for everything that you've shared with us today, Maria. As I say, Maria's details are on screen, and we will also send those round in a follow-up email. So for all of those detailed questions that you have, anything about your personal circumstances, or to start your property search, we strongly recommend that you get in touch with Maria and her team. So thank you, Maria.
Thank you.
So moving on to the next part of the process, then you've found the perfect home. Maria and her team have helped you secure it, and now you need to think about what's next and the legal process part of the process. So today I'm delighted to welcome Katia from Amaridis Law Services with us today, who's going to help answer our queries on this part of the process. Now, Katia is attorney at law at Amaridis Law Services, and they are a leading Greek firm providing high-value legal consultancy and services to overseas clients. So a fantastic lot of expertise we have with us today. Welcome, Katia. I'd love it if you could start by giving us a little bit of background into the business and how you're able to help our customers today.
Hello, Hannah. Thank you so much for your invitation today. It's such a pleasure and honor for me. As you already may know, Amaridis Law Services is a law firm based both in Thessaloniki and in Athens. Thessaloniki is the sub-capital of Greece, and we have a vast experience in real estate transactions, immigration cases, for example, golden visa, financial dependent persons residence permit, and we're working for about 2 decades with exclusively foreign clientele. So we have a vast experience on such matters. We know how to handle a case with foreign elements. For example, that a British citizen, a foreign from another country would like to handle in Greece. So I think that will be a great help and assistance for the attendant.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Katia. That's a great overview. Can I ask start by asking, how long does the buying process for property typically take from, placing an offer on a property to actually being able to get the keys in your hands and move in?
Okay, of course. By the time that the client will choose the property, the average time for the completion of the real estate transaction in Greece is 20 to 30 days. As you already may know, Greece is one of the most bureaucratic countries in the world, so the signing of a contract requires a pile of documentation, mostly from the seller's side. So the seller has to provide the notary with a ton of documents. That's why it takes so long, about a month. Although we have to admit that we are going through a period of digital governance transformation, as the Greek government is doing the utmost in order to reduce the average time needed for a contract, facilitating that way the real estate transactions and boosting investments in Greece. So in the above context, the property platform, which is a property where the notary can directly upload the tax declarations, was very recently launched by the Ministry of Finance in an attempt to expedite the procedure and to offload the tax offices because we had great delays due to the workload of the tax offices. So we are making attempts to make it more short and to make the whole procedure to be more favorable for a foreign citizen.
Brilliant. That's really helpful background. Thank you so much. Can I ask, what are the typical fees that a customer would pay you to carry out if it sort of followed the normal process, a typical property purchase? What would the sort of estimate fees be?
Okay, the legal fees are usually proportionate to the price of the property. So it is actually a percentage of around 1% on the selling price of the property. And of course, there are some smaller indicative fees for the side tasks. For example, for the issuance of the tax number, for appointing a tax representative, which is obligatory by the law, and tasks like that. So in case that you are interested, you can inquire to the email that you can see right now under my name, and we can send you our full price list, which includes not only our legal fees, but also a meticulous analysis of all the costs, taxes, notarial fees, registration fees, and third-party expenses so as for you to draw a clear picture of the total expenditure. So the legal fees is on average 1% on the value of the property. But of course, there are other expenses. For example, the transfer tax. The transfer tax currently amounts to 3.09% on the value of the property. And at this point, I would like to clarify something. In Greece, there is a tax property evaluation system which is applicable. That means that each property in Greece has a prefixed value, which is defined by the Ministry of Finance according to predetermined factors. For example, the area that the property is located, the floor, where the facade of the property is, and things like that. So, this predetermined value is called objective value. This system was introduced by the Greek government a long time ago in an effort to prevent tax evasion, which was and sometimes still is a very common phenomenon in Greece. We have many tax evaders. So actually, many times the buyer in the past and the seller agreed on a higher selling price, and they declared a lower price in the contract in order to diminish the payable transfer tax. So, in order for the Greek government to combat this phenomenon, they stipulated that the transfer tax, will be calculated on the higher between the objective value, namely the prefixed one, and the selling price. Hence, even if you declared a lower price in the contract, in order to circumvent, let's say, the Greek taxation law, you have to pay the tax on the objective value. And why I'm right now mentioning all that? Because Greek government, in an attempt to boost real estate transactions, and in general the Greek economy after the dire repercussions of COVID-19 pandemic, which of course a global phenomenon, the government decided to raise the objective values as of 1st of January of 2022. So, as you understand, that will give a push on the market value of the properties as well. So, we have to think that the objective value of the property and the selling price of the property, the market value, are like communicating vessels. And in case that the objective values will go up, the market values, of course, will be propelled, let's say, into the stratosphere. Okay, maybe I'm exaggerating a little bit, but they will go, of course, up. So that's the main fees and the transfer tax that a buyer has to pay in Greece.
Thank you, Katia. And it has certainly, highlighted how important it is to work with an expert such as you and your team to help the customers understand this process, because it is a little bit different to what we're used to here in the UK. So thank you for that. We've had a lot of questions coming in about title searches and understanding who currently owns the property that customers are trying to buy, and making sure that it's all legitimate, and the property isn't owned by multiple people who might come in at a later date and say that they have a claim over the property. Is that something that is carried out through the buying process? Would you check that for customers to ensure that all the purchase is done legally and legitimately and nobody else owns the property?
Of course. The survey on a property is the pivotal node in the whole transaction. So due diligence is one of the most important parts in the transaction. There are two main surveys that shall be conducted. The one is the legal research that we have to do at the land registry or the national cadastre. It depends on the area, in order to ensure that the property is free from any lien, mortgage, pre-notice of mortgage, and things like that. So the first step, even sometimes before making an offer, is to check the property if it is free of burdens. It is very important, because sometimes it is very likely that the property will have a mortgage on it, or maybe there will be a right of passage or something like that. We have to check all of that. It's very important. And of course, the second survey that we have to conduct, it is the research to the city planning authorities. Permit me to say that, as per our experience, city planning infringements is a national sport in Greece. So it is very important to make sure that all the surfaces on the property are legalized and in conformity with the building permit. That's why we strongly advise our clients to appoint their own civil engineer in Greece in order to conduct an inspection to the property, despite the fact that by the law, this is an obligation of the seller. So despite the fact that the seller has the obligation to appoint his civil engineer to inspect the property and to issue the relevant certifications for the contract, due to the fact that sometimes it is likely that the appointed by the seller civil engineer will turn a blind eye on city planning infringements, or maybe he will do an interpretation of the city planning law more favorable to his client's interest. That's why we strongly advise to our clients to appoint their own civil engineer to do the inspection. It is much more safe, and of course we suggest it 100%. And in this context, I would like to mention that we act like a one-stop shop. And when I'm saying a one-stop shop, I mean that we gather under our umbrella all the professionals involved in a real estate transaction in Greece: accountants, notaries, civil engineers, even realtors. So I think that is the trait that makes us differ from the other law firms.
That's brilliant, Katia. Thank you so much. That's really helpful. There was a lot of different questions about those title searches and those structural engineer surveys and things like that. So very helpful to answer that. Thank you so much. I would like to move on and think just a little bit about residency and visa and immigration. Now that we have Brexited, we obviously know that this is an important consideration for our buyers coming over from the UK. So can you explain a little bit about what the golden visa options are for Greece? Because a couple of questions have come in from listeners today about how they would secure a golden visa.
Of course, golden visa is very, very attractive to foreigners, and in the era post-Brexit, we have many inquiries per day from the Brits who are interested in applying for golden visa. Golden visa, it is a residence permit which grants to the applicant the right to reside in Greece permanently. So he can buy a property of at least 250k, and he then can apply for a residence permit and get it not only for himself, but also for his children until the age of 21, not 18. This is a very important point, because most of the residence permits grant the right to be accompanied by your family members and children until the age of 18. Golden visa is more flexible, more favorable, and enables you to have your children until the age of 21. And of course, you can be accompanied by your wife, if you have one, of course, or your husband, and by your parents-in-law, if you would like. Your parents-in-law and your parents, of course. So all the relatives in a setting line by the side of the applicant and by the side of the spouse of the applicant. The main requirement, of course, is the acquisition of a property of 250k. I would like to mention that there are some other kinds of golden visa which are not linked to a real estate transaction. It's, for example, with an investment in green bonds, in titles, things like that. But I would not like to drill down into such information.
Thank you, Katia. That's very helpful. And certainly anybody who's interested in golden visa, we will put them in touch with you to support with that process. If a customer wasn't going for a golden visa option, is there other ways to get residency, and do they have to prove a certain amount of income or wealth in order to be able to secure that?
Yes, of course. There are many kind of residence permit aside golden visa. For example, the residence permit as a financially dependent person. That means that, for example, if you have sufficient resources, and when I'm saying sufficient resources, I mean an amount of 2,000 per month for 2 years for the main applicant, you can apply for a residence permit as a financially independent person. That means that you have to prove that you have in a bank account in Greece, not a bank account abroad, the whole amount for 2 years deposited at the time that you will go to the immigration authority in Greece to apply for the residence permit. Of course, the first step before the application, before the immigration authority in Greece, is to get the relevant national visa, the visa D for financial independent persons. So the whole procedure starts from the Greek consulate, the competent one, which is the one nearest to the place of the residence of the applicant, and then we can move to the application before the immigration authority in Greece. Of
That's
course, yes, I'm sorry to interrupt you, Hannah. Of course, there are other kinds of residence permit, but we have to know something about the client, his profile, his needs, so as to suggest them. So, if you would like, you can inquire to us in the email, or you can text us on WhatsApp, or maybe you can give us a call and to discuss about the profile of its client separately.
Thank you, Katia. That's great. And it's so reassuring for Brits, you know, post-Brexit to know that we still do have options to relocate. So it's just a case of finding the best and most suitable option for each client. So yes, as Katia said, we will also send out these details afterwards to make sure you're able to get in touch and get your questions answered. I'm conscious of our time today. We do want to wrap this up in less than an hour so people can get back to their evenings. But a quick last question for you, Katia, is about power of attorney. Are customers able to give a lawyer in Greece power of attorney to act on some of the document signing and legal process for their property purchase?
Of course, of course. This is how we worked during COVID-19, of course, because you know that due to the pandemic, travel restrictions are many, and many clients or investors cannot visit Greece in order to conclude the property transaction or even to apply for golden visa or any other kind of residence permit. So what we do is to get a power of attorney by the client, which can be signed either before the Greek consulate, the competent one, for example, the Greek consulate in London, or before a public notary in UK as well. The procedure is different. For example, for the POA before the consulate, the client has to be accompanied by an interpreter who will translate the POA from Greek to English. It is obligatory by law. But in the case of a POA before a public notary in UK, he has to go to the notary, notarize the POA, and then stamp it with apostille stamp. So it is different procedures. But of course, in this way, we can act on behalf of the client and we can conclude safely a real estate transaction or the application for golden visa. Because I would like to mention that due to the pandemic, Greek government introduced a law that enables the foreigners to apply for golden visa through a POA without visiting Greece. So before COVID, this was not an option. They had to enter at least once Greece. But after COVID, and of course, all these um, tumultuous situation that it caused, Greek government gave this opportunity in order to make the regime for golden visa even more favorable and attractive for foreigners.
Thank you, Katia. That's been so helpful today. As with our other panelists, I feel we could talk all day, and there's so much that we would love to chat about today. But thank you to all the panelists for sharing their expertise today. I hope we've answered the most important and pressing questions from all the viewers on the session. And for those personal circumstances questions or particular queries, we will share the contact details so you're able to get in touch with our panelists today and get your questions answered. And also, we will share a recording of today's session as well for you all if you want to check back on anything that was said and refresh your memory on any of the details. So thank you again to our three wonderful panelists, and thank you again to all of our viewers for joining us and listening in today. The last thing we'll do is pop a link on screen to the Property Guide's website. We've got a Greek buying guide, as mentioned there, and we've got loads of buying advice for Greece, which is a fantastic place to start your journey. So do have a look at our website, do download that guide, and certainly let us know if there's anything else we can do to help you get out to Greece and buy your property. So thank you again for all joining us tonight, and we wish you a very happy and successful purchase in Greece. So thank you, everybody. Goodbye.